Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Well, aloha. Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where SaaS brands turn cloud solutions into a sunny day at the park. Talk about making every cloud have a silver lining. Man, our SaaS founders do that for sure. Well, I'm still here in Hawaii, spending time with some of the smartest founders and business leaders that I know. And it's been incredibly productive. I've solved two very specific business problems that I've been wrestling with for a while. And it's just so much value. And, of course, just doing epic things together. And I got my hands on some really cool AI solutions. It's one of those things, I see solutions all the time, and this one is game-changing. Kind of like Marina last week in Growth Channel, if you listen to that episode. But I'll tell you more about that on the 100th episode. But it's something, I think we're going to be able to do some really cool things for our clients with it. And this crazy SaaS landscape, it's easy to get lost in, and I'll say that the buzzwords and the latest trends. And I'm love cutting edge technology and that kind of stuff. But the foundation has to be right. And that's not something we can overlook and just say, I'm going to go after the cool stuff. To succeed on this journey, a foundational requirement is brand reputation. And I think it's like the compass that directs the know, like, and trust in the marketplace. And that's an essential ingredient to enduring success. I mean, anybody can win once, right? And what we want to create is a future-proof business that wins over and over and over again. In the old days, you could probably do a good offer alone and attract customers, kind of like bees to a honeypot. But over time, I think buyers have become a lot more savvy. And in this new climate, brand reputation has become a really key player. And it's not about just what you're selling, but who you are as a brand, what you stand for and against, and the alignment of values. As a founder, you or your company probably use some sort of a social media management platform. Most of them pretty much do the same things, give or take a feature here or there. But one, I think, really stood out from the crowd. This company could have followed the beaten path, kind of the usual way of doing things, focusing on competing directly with industry giants solely based on feature offerings. But instead, they chose a different route, and the route less traveled. The founder's name is Joel Gascoigne. He's co-founder and CEO of Buffer, and they had a very different idea. First, they're all remote, and they did it way before it was cool. But as a company, they built an identity just centered around transparency, even going as far as publicizing pricing, revenue, employee salaries. It's like mind-blowing. The approach is certainly unconventional, but I mean, it's just one of those things of like, what, did I hear that right? That kind of transparency. And that's one of their greatest strengths because it's taken their reputation and just built it up in a tremendous way. Customers trust them because they've pulled back the curtain. They can see what's going on. They allow the audience to know, like, and trust them on a much deeper level. So it's not about just features or selling software. They really get to know the company and learn. And that's something that I really think is pretty awesome. And Joel is an incredible human as well. Now, that's not to downplay the importance of a solid product and an irresistible offer. Those still matter, and I work with clients on those all the time. But in today's business terrain, where competition is stiff, where customers have countless options, your brand reputation can be your North Star and a massive differentiator in a marketplace that kind of all looks the same. Give or take a feature here or there. Can a stellar brand save a mediocre offer? Well, some of the big companies, honestly, they kind of depend on that. The reputation and their offers are just not that great. Same, kind of mediocre product, services, blah, offer is meh. But can a tempting offer overcome a questionable brand reputation? I think that's a much harder hill to climb in today's market. And that's why the big companies spend so much time working on their brand. A good offer might get you in the door, but it's your reputation that will get you customers to stay and explore once they're in that door. And that's what makes your business future-proof. And I don't mean go out and spend a bunch of money on brand building ads. I mean, that's as foolish as ignoring brand altogether. But invest in client success, delivering wow experiences, get reviews, testimonials, and case studies. Build that brand equity. But the most important thing is learn to articulate your brand value really, really well. Think you do that today? Well, listen today and rate yourself and your team. Does everybody in your company talk about it the same way that you do? Now, many companies don't really know how to talk about what they do and feel like they are the best kept secret from their ideal clients. And if that sounds like you, then check out today's sponsor, Champion Leadership Group. It's the ultimate resource for SaaS founders and C-suite executives like you and me to continue to develop ourselves, scale our companies, and never walk alone. Now, unlock untapped revenue by leveraging our time-tested SaaS growth principles, toolkits, playbooks, and frameworks designed to help you scale ARR from 7 to 8 to 9 figures. Collaborate with an elite network of SaaS visionaries, celebrate wins and overcome defeats together, and sometimes in cool places like Hawaii. Confidently take that right next step, the one that creates your giant leap of profitable growth, premium valuation, and freedom. You can learn more at championleadership.com. Our founder on Tuesday was Marina Bereshkina, CEO and founder at growthchannel.ai. She's a founder with 2 successful exits so far. Marina has combined marketing expertise with AI technology to put you in the driver's seat, put you in front of your ideal clients so they say, I see you everywhere. And our expert guest last week was John Gumas, author of Marketing Smart and Challenger Brand Marketing. He is a true champion of challenger brands and laid out awesome strategies for taking on industry giants and, more importantly, how to win. And today we're building on that again. But if you missed either one of those episodes, go back and check them out, because they are outstanding episodes. My guest this week is Kate DiLeo, brand architect and the #1 best-selling author whose approach is rooted in the belief that brand is the path of least resistance to revenue. Eliminate complex and ineffective storytelling by delivering simple yet provocative message that tells prospect what you do, how you solve their problem, and how you differ from the competition. The outcome? Well, brand conversations that convert. Welcome the maven of brand conversion, Kate DiLeo. Hey, Kate, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Well, you are a SaaS branding expert. So let's talk about all things SaaS brands and marketing. How important is a brand to SaaS companies?
Oh my gosh, so important. I feel like this is something that I'm sure, many of us know intrinsically that we're supposed to have this down, like have your brand down. But it's interesting. I've worked with 300 companies globally, and I would say probably over 75% of them are SaaS companies. In fact, a lot of them are fast-growing startups. So even emerging SaaS and tech companies coming through in today's marketplace. And brand is one of the #1 priorities we're seeing for SaaS companies that are trying to transition into this position of just going from concept into really penetrating the market. It is paramount for them to get that next round of investment and to acquire customers.
So when you say brand, what does that mean? How do we know if a company has one or doesn't? Because that can be kind of fuzzy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for calling that out, because I always get asked a question like, are you a graphic designer? I'm like, no. If you asked me for a logo, I'd give you a stick figure. That would be the worst thing ever. When we're talking about brand in this concept as it relates to any small business or business, especially SaaS companies, I'm talking about your message. I'm talking about your go-to-market message. And in fact, brand is ultimately the promise that you put forth into the world of who you are and what you do, how you solve somebody's specific problem, and how you're different and better than the rest. That's what brand is. And so it's really that if you can kind of envision your brand is like the tip top of what you state when you walk into the room to compel somebody to want to know more. That's what your brand does.
So you mentioned that the trifecta last time we talked.
Yes.
So tell me, what is that, the marketing trifecta?
Absolutely. So it's funny, I get asked all the time, well, that's great, Kate, but how do you write your brand message. I was part of an accelerator and they told me one thing. And then I got this pitch deck advice over here. They told me another. And then I went with a marketing agency. They told me, does this sound familiar? Everybody's got their ideas around how do you write brand? Okay. So what I've done is I've spent the last 15 years really proving out my formulaic approach for brand writing. And it's very simple. I love formula. I love A plus B plus C equals outcome. So I really had come up with this formula from a pure necessity, actually. And I'll tell you that in a minute, like how we got there. But the formula for a brand for any SaaS company is very simple. You need 3 things to get somebody to the point of conversion, AKA when they're ready to take that next step. And that is number 1, a tagline that really answers the question, what do you do? Followed by number 2, which is what we call a value proposition statement. That is the message. That's this 1 or 2 sentences that really get at, here's what I know your problem is, and here's how we solve that. Then the third and final thing of this brand trifecta are a set of what we call differentiator statements. They're really those big bullet points, like the 1, 2, 3, again, right, of how you're different and better than the rest. That's the brand trifecta, and it's based on buyer psychology of what does somebody need to know and want to know to actually get to this point where they care to take the next step with your company. That's what this is all about, is bringing people to the point of conversion through a brand conversation.
So how did you come up with that?
So I'll rewind because I got asked one day there, somebody said, did you go to school for branding? And I was like, no. So I'm an older millennial. I'm 37. And I actually, when I was in school, I was planning to pursue actually a PhD in linguistic anthropology, which that is actually the study of how language shapes culture, how culture shapes language, all of that. I loved it. I geeked out on it. Yeah, very interesting. And so I've always had this
Sounds like marketing.
thing.
That's like the perfect thing for marketing. How language shapes culture.
But this is so funny. Of course, here I am in my 20s. I had no idea about that, right? Like, I didn't even think about business or branding, even though my dad was a serial entrepreneur. I was like, I wanted to go as far away from what dad did as possible. Okay, so I'm in there and I'm about to start postgraduate work and the market crashes. And I had a professor, I remember him looking at me and telling me, hey, listen, we love you. We know you really are passionate about wanting to teach and be a professor, but don't know where the whole field is going to be like in the next, 10 years. I'm going to recommend that you go out, get a job, pay off your undergraduate debt, and maybe come back after you've had a little bit more real world experience. Of course, my Italian father was like, leave my house. Thank you. Go get a job, leave my house. So I actually, here's what happened. Bottom line, I took a sales job. How I fell into what I do today is from pure necessity because I took a sales job cold calling IT professionals to sell them $2,500 training classes.
Wow.
That's not a smart decision.
But it worked out.
I mean, it did, but it was hilarious. You take this job, right? And I love when I talk to SaaS founders and they're like, yeah, I never want to be a salesperson. I'm like, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Well, you're like, I didn't get into this business to do sales, Kate. I'm like, right here. But I took this job and here's what happened. And I promise this as a point. So I'm in the job. They throw you to the wolves. They give you sales scripts. They give you a list of 10,000 companies to call and off you go. And it's make or break. And none of the scripts they were giving me were working. So here's the deal is I had to make a decision to try to figure out how I could get this IT person to stay on the phone with me and actually want to talk and have a conversation. And so I ended up deciding to go rogue. And I came up with my own little formula, which is now the brand trifecta. And I would call these people up, as smiling and dialing and go, hi, my name's Kate. I'm with such and such company. This is what we do. This is how we solve your problem. And this is how we're different. And then I would shut up. And it worked. It worked. I got that IT person to go, hey, I'm in the middle of something, but can you shoot me an email? Hey, call me back in 3 months and I can think about that. Like I broke through the wall. And that was, for me, the ticket. So from there, I actually got recruited into the marketing department. Then I got recruited into the agency world to go build brands. Then I got recruited by one of my clients into corporate America. All the while, I was a side hustler. I was building my own business on the side, building brands for companies. And then about 4.5 years ago, I took this full time now. And the rest is kind of history.
That's fantastic. So really out of necessity. I like that. So why does it work? What is the buyer psychology behind that makes somebody want to engage?
Well, I'll kind of tell you the overview from a scientific standpoint, and then can I use a silly example to kind of maybe have it sink in a little bit? Because I think
we love silly examples.
I think it might almost make it click, So the buyer psychology is that, in general, when buyers are inundated with somebody, a business, a message, the human brain has a lot of messages coming at it. And one of the most important things that the brain does is compartmentalize and make sense of all the messages that it's receiving. And what it tries to do is not just hear and catch on to cool new things, but it tries to compartmentalize and really make sense of that and create order of the messages hearing. And so based on that whole precipice, on that mindset, there's a really interesting way that this brand trifecta works. Instead of just hitting you with the coolest, sexiest tagline and hoping that someone's like, wow, I'm so ready to give you $1 million, right? Probably not going to work. There has to be more there. There's 3 things. And so let me unpack this with a silly example to kind of get this to click. Okay. And I'll explain why this is so critical. So imagine I walk into a room, right? You and I meet for the first time. You've never met me. And we're just chatting. It's a networking scenario. You're like, oh, it's so nice to meet you, Kate. I'm like, oh, it's so great to meet you. What's the first thing you're going to ask me?
What do you do? All the time.
How about that? And how many of us roll into this long, complex story and 30 seconds and you're like, oh God, I see his eyes glaze over. I lost him. Have you ever done that?
Yep. Oh, yes.
Or on the flip side, can you imagine if I walked into the room and you said, Kate, what do you do? And I just go, I do branding.
There's nowhere to go with that. We're done. Like, oh, okay.
Have you ever had that where you see somebody do that and they're like, cool. And then they move on to the next person. You're like, I'm a founder of what?
Yeah, there's nothing to grab onto there.
Nothing. So the idea here is about provocation. The brand trifecta is rooted in this idea of not being pretentious, not being like cocky and arrogant, but confident provocation, this ability to get that person on the other side, whether they're reading your message, whether they're hearing it in the room, whether it's an investor listening to your investment, your pitch, to go, interesting, what do you mean by that? To want to know and ask that next question, to want to go down this path. So this whole principle is rooted in getting that person to go and want to know the next piece of information. So keep that in mind. So we walk into the room, you ask me, what do I do? Well, I'm going to serve up my tagline. I was like, I help companies build brands that win more work.
Ooh, that's good. Because that adds in something that we want. So it's not just what you do, but it's I want that.
There's a promise. Tell me more. There. Now, it's hilarious because whenever I share that with my fellow technology lovers or my Midwesterners that listen to that, I'm like, please raise your hand if you thought that was pretentious and arrogant. All the hands go up. Because culturally, we are told what? You don't toot your own horn. You don't brag.
Right.
You let the work speak for itself. Okay. So one of the most important things to think about here is you're walking a fine line between being pretentious and provocative. Your tagline, though, has to be bold enough that you can back it. So what I mean by that is I've worked with 300 companies globally. I've had 10 companies have successful exits based on the brand work I've done. I can prove that I build brands that win more work. I can prove that. So is that really pretentious? Or did I do exactly what I wanted to do when I said that to you? And you said, really? You saw your eyebrows go up. Did you see that?
Right.
I got you. So step 1 in the brand trifecta, tell me what you do. I build brands that win more work. So you're probably looking at me and you're like, really? What do you mean by that?
Right. They want to engage. They want to know more. They're intrigued. And I think that's really interesting. There's that intrigue. There's a little mystery of what is that? I want that. What is that? Yeah.
And the innovator in us, we can't lose that, right? Like I want you to realize you have to lean into that this power of provocation, this power of intrigue is really critical for somebody to want to know more about your product or service. Okay. All right. So I tell you what I do. I build brands that win more work. You're like, whoa, cool. So what do you mean by that? So the second piece of information, the brand trifecta that I'm going to serve up is what we call a value proposition statement. Okay. And that's really expounding on that tagline. It's really kind of taking it to the next level. I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. Oh, well, what I mean by that is I'm a brand strategist, and I really believe that business is a conversation and not a transaction. But see, the problem is most of companies, we struggle to actually have brand conversations that actually convert. And so that's my job. My job is to come on in, help you clarify your brand message and nail that down so that your target audiences ultimately are going to buy from you versus the competition. That's what I mean by building brands that win more work.
I like that. Again, that just takes them.
Again. Yeah.
It did. I mean, you're going deeper into that intrigue. So the curiosity.
I'm pointing out the truth of the situation, and then I'm saying, here's how I solve that truth that I know companies are facing.
One thing I really like about that is built into that statement, there's the opportunity where you say it and they go, oh, me too. Because it's universal. It's something that we all deal with. And so when you say that, it resonates with just who we are as business people. And we go, that's me. And so then they're drawn in even more.
Thank you. So this is beautiful what you just said there, because, okay, when we go back to this art of provocation, okay, and this art of having what we call your brand can create a conversation. You're seeing this happen, right? Even, by the way, if you've ever gone to somebody's website, you've had a conversation mentally with good brands. If you've ever gone to somebody's website and in the first few sentences, you go, oh my God, they get me.
Yes.
That is a fantastic brand that knocked it out of the park with a value proposition statement. A value proposition statement is really that statement where you're like, thank you. That's exactly what me too.
Yes.
And there's this refreshing, this person gets it. This brand gets it.
I'm not alone. They understand me.
So this is what's fascinating. I told you what I did. I built brands that win more work. You're like, really? What do you mean by that? I tell you how I can solve your problem. And you're like, that's what I'm dealing with too. Okay, now here's what's interesting. At this point in the conversation, most of us would think that you're totally ready to hear about my amazing branding program, right?
I think a lot of people would go for the sale at that point. Now it's time to dump, feature dump.
Correct. But you just shot yourself in the foot if you did. You can't miss this. Here's what's fascinating. Let's go back to that brain psychology for a second. Okay. At this point, you're not ready to know about my program. But why is that? If we peel back the layers for a second, you're probably mentally sitting there and your brain's just short-circuiting going, who is this crazy, very caffeinated lady that says that she, builds brands that win more work and she can get my target audiences to buy from me versus the competition, right? Okay, your brain's trying to make sense of it, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you know what the brain does when it tries to make sense of new data or information that it's taken in?
It tries to categorize it in a place that it already has. So we're trying to fit it into a box that we already know.
You, my friend, are the first podcast host that's actually gotten that correct. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay. Yes, you're going to try to put me in a box. In fact, you're actually going to compare me against the competition.
Sure.
And I want it to happen. You have to remember, you guys, this is the most important point, that your prospect is going to compare you to the competition at this point in the conversation, and you need it to happen. Why? Because they're going to set you up beautifully. Watch, because you know this in the conversation, because you're going to look at me and go, wow, that is so interesting. So Kate, are you like a graphic designer or a copywriter? Do you run an agency? Like you're trying to clarify?
Right. Which box should I put you in?
Okay.
Can you make me a logo?
Oh, yeah. Can you do a logo? Oh. And I go, oh my God, that's such a great question. I'm a little different. Here's how, right? You set me up to completely deliver the third piece of the brand trifecta, which are differentiators. It was perfect.
And now you've created your own box. You're a category of one.
And I go, I'm a little different. Here's why. I only focus on messaging. I get my project done in 4 to 6 weeks. I give actionable tactics, boom, 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 really fast. And you go, oh. Got it. That's so interesting. So, Kate, and here's the moment we've been waiting for. By the way, all this actually probably only took about 30 seconds in a conversation, right?
Sure.
Here's the moment, the conversion moment of after delivering the brand trifecta. It's the moment when you look at me and go, that's so interesting. So, like, how does that work? Or what does that look like? That, how, what question is the conversion moment. where you're telling me, tell me how you deliver on the value. What are the features and the benefits? What are the cool charts and graphs that I get? What's the product output? For a SaaS company where you have somebody click to watch the explainer video, fill out the form, click to go to your actual product features page. But here's the bottom line. Until psychologically somebody knows what you do, tagline, how you solve their problem, value prop, how you're different, differentiator statements, they don't give a crap about your product or service. That is okay. The job of your brand is to just get them there in 30 seconds so that then you can go into all the rest of your amazing content that you probably have. It's order of operations of content, pure and simple.
So what happens if you get that order of operations backwards or you get things out of order?
You're going to lose them. You're going to lose them. The tendency is that we have a bit of FOMO. But if I don't tell them all the features and benefits right away of the cool thing, and then it does this and this and this and this, they're not going to see how great it is, Kate, and they're not going to want to buy from me. Sound familiar? Right? But hold on. I'm not saying don't tell them that information. I'm saying, can you be patient for 30 seconds until they're like ready to know all of that information? Mentally, they're like, got it. Now I can go into all of those details and compartmentalize all those details. I'm ready to. I have enough context where now I care and I'm curious and I can actually, categorize all the information you now want to give to me.
I think that's really important. It's not just about the content, but the context. And now I think they see it through a different lens. Instead of just, here's a bunch of stuff. They've got a place to put that in a reference, just a frame of reference to deal with it.
Yeah, that's right. And what it does is it enables you to move from product feature selling, where somebody might only grasp one feature and then they want to, maybe they'll purchase for one feature. And what you've done is you've actually started to shift to going after buyers who see the deep value of the bottom line pain that you solve for their organization or for themselves, that value prop. And then they're blown away and excited about all the features of how you make that happen. And that's the beauty, is you begin to get buyers that buy into the entire promise. And it's actually an easier sale. I actually have SaaS companies that have gone from 6+ month sales cycle down to like 60 days because of this. People got it.
Oh, that's amazing. I love the idea of leveraging buyer psychology in doing that. So, I mean, it's not that you're not giving them the features and the benefits and
right.
the outcomes. You're just giving them the frame of reference to get there so they can consume it.
Yeah, it's just like, you know what? You code and build a beautiful product, right? Are you telling me that you don't keep your code in the right order, that you don't code a specific way, that you don't have a particular formula and structure and architecture for that code? Of course you do. Otherwise, the code doesn't
work.
It
messy
breaks.
If you didn't.
It breaks.
Yes.
What I'm telling you is that your message, your entire message, your entire marketing, your entire sales breaks if you don't actually have the backbone of a strong brand architecture from which all the other stuff can come.
So where have you seen the brands make big mistakes? Or does anybody make mistakes?
Oh, of course. We all do. We all do, right? Even the brand lady here, we all make mistakes, right? And it's this constant refinement. But the number one mistake I see is that you go right into feature and benefit selling. I come to your website and I don't actually have a compelling message at all. I just see it does this, and this. And I'm like, what? And why do I care? You didn't give me the why I should care up front. You went right into the what and the how. That's the number one thing that I find that is happening. An easy way to fix this, if you even just look at it from a pure, can we talk website for a second? Okay. Easiest way to fix this is to move the what and how information onto your product page, onto your services page, onto a page where they would go into the details with your cool charts and graphs. Instead, I want you to think about your homepage of your website being the compelling why, brand trifecta. Tagline, value proposition statement, differentiator statements. Oh, then maybe you can have some cool logos of who you've worked with in an explainer video and click to learn more. That's the number one mistake. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm.
It seems like with the brand trifecta, we're kind of starting with the tagline. It kind of goes to the head, and then you have the value proposition, and that's really the Me Too moment. That's more emotional connection.
It's the heart.
That's the heart connection with the prospect. Is that correct?
You're completely spot on. I'm making sense of it. I'm resonating with it. And I can acknowledge then how that is different from everybody else. Now I'm ready to talk dollars. See, I need to still know that third piece of information of why you're different though, because also not only does it help put you in a box of what you're doing, how you do it, but also I think it's really important that we recognize that buyers need to understand apples to apples. Why should I choose you over a competitor? High level. That is a critical piece of information of why they're not going to drop off your site and go to somebody else's. Why they're going to actually book that discovery call with you, you know?
That makes a lot of sense. We started to mention brand conversations. I think that's really interesting. How is a brand conversation different than, say, a brand story?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I talk a lot about this in my book even. It's so funny. My book even says stop telling stories and start having conversations, right? I'm so anti-storytelling. Oh my God. Okay. Here's the whole concept. It's not that I don't love a good story. I do. The problem is that about 10 years ago, there was a man named Donald Miller who wrote a book called Story Brand. Yep. And he's brilliant. He's fantastic. I love what he has done. Please hear me on that. He paved the way. And the precipice of what he was saying was genius, which is you're supposed to make it all about them, not us, right?
Correct.
Here's the thing. Nobody told us marketers how to write the story. So what did we do? We turned it into a story all about us. And that's so easy to do. Storytelling. At the core, storytelling is a one-way monologue. You have one person talking and one person listening or reading. My question for you is, how is that compelling for your audience to engage with your brand?
It may not be, because it may be an interesting story, but unless it connects with them and they resonate, it is just one way.
You also can spot a storytelling. You can spot a storytelling website if you've gone to somebody's website and right away you're getting paragraph upon paragraph of copy. And you're like, I don't read this, right? You're just kind of you just know nobody's going to do it. That's why I get frustrated with storytelling. It's not that stories aren't great. The problem is stories are not meant for the tip top of your brand message. Stories come later. Stories show up in white papers, blog posts, articles, thought leadership. Stories come up with compelling case studies and testimonials. That's where story belongs. It is important. My thesis is that your brand can have a conversation, even with somebody reading your website, through this art of provocation. And that from this formula of how you layer each piece of your message in that brand trifecta, you're giving space. You're giving room for a mental or audible response. What do you mean by that? That's interesting. Tell me more. Wait a second. How do you do that? How does that work? And that's the art of a brand conversation. That's when you're allowing somebody to opt in. They're stepping up. They're self-selecting. And all of a sudden, instead of you pushing and telling the story, hoping to convince them, you've created a brand conversation that naturally converts them.
It's brilliant. That's brilliant. I like the idea of having story further down in the funnel. It's one thing, once they know you, once they want to engage, now that's when they want that it's just the continuation. Now they want to hear from you. Now that they have the conversation, have the context.
Then they want to hear great, compelling stories. They also want stories where they see themselves interacting with all that stuff. But I'm saying, move it further down the picture. Move it down. You will get a higher conversion rate if you do.
Yeah, so how do we do that with marketing? How do we make it about them? Because I think that's one of the hardest things. It's one of those things that I know and I know we're supposed to do. And then I write a marketing piece and then I read it and I go, I messed it all up. But now it's all about me again. And I got to rewrite it.
Okay, so I unpack this a lot in my book, by the way, and I actually give you guys the how-to, legitimately step by step of how to write a brand with this in mind. So it's a very systematic approach. But let me walk you through the big buckets of work that I take before I even start to write. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to do actually is understand yourself, your brand, from the perspective of what is my core tone of voice and personality as a brand. Are you a blue pen or a red pen?
Blue pen.
There you go. So don't go write in a red pen. Brand is not aspirational. You never write a brand from the perspective of, I think I should be this. You actually write your brand from who you really are. Why? Because like attracts like. Buyers love authenticity and candor. They can sniff a fake a mile away, can't you? Come on, we can sniff it.
Absolutely. And it's hard to keep that up. If you choose something that's not authentic, you can only keep that up for so long, and it's exhausting.
And you start throwing spaghetti at the wall trying to be somebody for everybody, and that's not going to work. The number one principle that I need people to understand is that you are not in the business of convincing. You are in the business of converting. It is not your job to speak to everybody in the world with your brand. It is your job to convert the ones who have the highest probability of buying and most deeply will resonate with your message. That's the job of your brand. Let the others go. Protect your bottom line here. Don't go spinning your wheels trying to go after somebody that you need to have 16 freaking discovery calls to go close a deal. That is not an ideal candidate.
Right.
That's time that you could have been using to go after the one who read your message and goes, oh my God. Okay, I need that. Can we get on a call? So here's the thing. Number one, you need to know how you sound and show up as a brand. I've written Oprah brands. You know how Oprah sounds? You get a skew. Ryan Reynolds, kind of self-deprecating humor, right?
Yes.
I've actually done Ryan Reynolds in Aviation Gin, Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. It's fascinating. Here's the thing though. When you write, remember how you gave me that example of I started to write and it just came out as a bunch of like corporate-y mumbo jumbo gobbledygook?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so actually that's normal and that's pretty par for the course even for myself. When I write, and I write for a living, I'm going to get the concept down. So I'm going to dump. I'm going to get it all down. And then what we do is we have to go through that refinement process and go, well, hang on a second. How would I actually say this? And what we want to use is have you understand your authentic brand tone of voice to go, well, how would Ryan Reynolds say it? Well, he'd say this. He might throw a question in there. He might use an exclamation point. He might have a mic drop moment. He's not going to write a paragraph. So that's the first thing. The second thing, though, if you're asking me, how do I write a brand that gets people to have a conversation with me and convert? And this is the most important. You have got to be willing to niche in your target audiences and actually do some analysis on what the deepest level heart pain is that you solve for those audiences. You need data. And you've got to speak to the real root cause. So what that looks like is out of all the potential buyers you could have, you're going to follow the rule of 70%. The goal with your brand is to not speak to everybody. What we want you to do is choose the top 2 or 3 audiences where you think 70% of the majority of your revenue is going to come from. Okay? Those ideal people that you just really love. With a full acknowledgement, you can have outliers. So like in my world, I predominantly deal with small business. That doesn't mean I don't have enterprise clients, but am I actively going to go market and find them? No. Usually they come through like somebody I know. Sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So you have to decide and niche in. Then the second piece is you need to define what ideal looks like for them with buyer criteria. What's the psychographics of that business owner that I'm going for? Where do they live? Where do they shop? Where do they eat? Where do they spend their money? Is this a competitive type A person that's a founder? Is this a visionary founder that I serve? Who's this person? What compels them? Because it enables you to then understand what rooms are those people already in, where I can find more of those people. Finally, the third piece that you need to do for writing a brand is identify the deepest level heart pain you solve. So not just, and we do solve this and this and this and this and this, but actually getting at, okay, to sum it up, what is the most important thing that this person cares about? The deepest pain. That right there is what we use. I do a method called 5 whys. If you're familiar with this, I do a 5 whys exercise to get to that. That's what we use to then go write this compelling brand.
So tell me about the 5 whys. Is that where we're going down? They answer a question and we go a layer deeper.
Why? I sound like my 4-year-old when I do it, and my clients get so mad, right? One of them in the room is always like, I always warn them, like, you're going to get really frustrated. But remember, we never take anything for granted. So often what happens is they say, oh, well, Kate, they need a brand that enables them to reach their target audiences. Well, why? Because they want to acquire more customers. Well, why?
Why?
Because they want to grow their revenue in their business, right? Okay.
Right.
Usually 3 whys down, you're going to hit the money. They want to either protect their bottom line or grow revenue. I
think there's a why behind that too. Why do they want to grow revenue? Why is that important? What's the end goal?
Push further. So in my case, here's what was very fascinating. Why does my buyer, this particular founder, care about revenue? My founder, what I recognized in the course of this was that revenue signaled their ability to change the world. I had a founder once that really hit this home for me. I said, I don't get it, Tom. Like, you've built like how many businesses, you've had successful exits. Like, why do you even care about building this brand with me? He's like, what? I was like, I don't get it. Like, why do you care? Like, why are you even here? He's like, nobody's ever asked me that before. I'm like, well, seriously, why do you care about revenue? And he just kind of looked at me and he sat back and he just goes, listen, Kate, I've had some serious failures and I've had some serious successes. And with this business, failure is not an option. This is my baby. This is the one that I've wanted. This is my dream. This is the thing that I know that I'm meant to put into the world. And so for me, revenue is everything because it signals that I've made it and I've done it. So this was a founder who had a psychology in his mind of part visionary of changing the world with his amazing product, but also this really okay competitive nature of him wanting to like make it and do that for himself, for his family, in the marketplace. That's what drove him. So why, when you then look at my messaging, I speak right to the point. I talk very clearly of most companies don't have brand conversations that actually convert. This is a founder who cares about conversions. And I then say, my job is to help you clarify your brand so that your target audiences buy from you versus the competition. Do you see what I'm saying here? I then tailored that message, building brands that win more work.
Yeah.
Do you see how that turns into the language then of my buyer who's like, thank you. You're not just talking about artsy fartsy purple and pink colors. You actually get it. There you go. That differentiated me. That's the point here.
No, that's really nice. And being able to just those small changes and to be able to tweak that. It's the exact same message put slightly different that fits exactly where they are, what they're looking for.
That's right. You can take this brand trifecta concept, by the way, and you can actually continue to go down that path even further, where if you have a company, you have a SaaS company that we wrote their top level brand trifecta that kind of spoke to all of their target audiences, but they recognized that in the course of the buying cycle, they actually had buyers for like CMOs, CEOs, and CFOs were all key stakeholders and decision makers. All of them cared about different aspects of the product.
Absolutely.
And all of them really needed different reasons why to cut that check. So what we did is a second layer down of the brand architecture. And we wrote supportive brand trifectas for each of those audiences. And this is great because what you can do is on your website, go from the homepage to for marketers, for founders, for investors, for finance leaders. And they go to their specific page and you have a different set of charts and videos and a different value proposition statement and differentiators right there. That's how you solve for that, even if you've got different audiences that might have very different heart pains that you're solving.
And that's very true. Even inside one business, to have multiple stakeholders, the CEO cares about something very different than the CFO, completely different than an operations person or IT or HR. They all have concerns, but they're all different. And one message will not resonate with all of them.
That's right. Your goal is to kind of almost put the roof on the house with a top level brand trifecta that can serve everybody and compel them enough to take the next step, which is to go into their next page. Does this make sense? So again, instead of 30 seconds of brand trifecta, you might have like a minute of a brand trifecta because you've got 1 + 2 for a particular audience. But I think the point here is that following that structure allows that person to, again, self-select in. They find themselves in that journey. They have a clear, compelling message that articulates, great, I get high level what you do for an organization, but what about me as the CFO? And they then can get that addressed as the next layer of messaging where they're like, okay, got it.
And that's where you're winning the stakeholders. And you don't have to go convince each one because your copy has already done that. And so they're all in agreement. They're like, this is the one that we want.
In fact, remember I gave you that example of a client who went from 6 months to 6 weeks or 60 days to sales cycle, excuse me. Oh my God, 6 weeks, wouldn't that be incredible? Okay. 6 months to 60 days. That's more realistic. Okay. So what we did is we built out that page structure on their website, that messaging structure with these brand trifectas. Then what I said is, how can we take that into your sales process and materials? So here's what happened. I asked them to create sales sheets or PDFs for each of those roles. So that, let's say the person who filled out the form to get on an initial call was the CEO. What we did is we said, here's the deal. We won't meet with you unless you have these other stakeholders on the call. We won't meet with you because all of you are going to need to know what's going on here. So they actually set the standard where they're like, y'all need to be on this call. And we'll do one call with everybody in the room. Here are open dates. Let us know which date you all can attend. That was the first thing they did. They didn't take any call with just one person. Whole team needs to show up. Why is that critical? Instead of you having somebody just a curious cat trying to get on a call with you, if that person's serious enough to get 4 to 5 people in that room, that's a high probability buyer right there.
Yes, it is.
Bingo. That's the first winning step. Then what we did is I said, then you're going to send out a follow-up email. To prep for our session, our discovery call, we're not going to show you everything that the system can do. However, please go ahead and have each person on your team take a look at this set of videos. They're each about 1 to 2 minutes long. They're going to unpack the core features and benefits of our product that all of your stakeholders are going to appreciate. So what we did is we embedded links to like the videos that were on the CFO page, the CMO page, etc.
That's great.
And so please watch these before you show up. And then what happened is then say, please be prepared to come to the table to ask the specific questions of what you specifically want to see in the system that we didn't address. So what
they're already pre-sold.
They're pre-sold. If they hold that call, guess what? They're no longer showing up in the room asking you, so what does it do?
Right.
They're getting on the call with you going,
yes.
Yeah, I saw that video. That was super cool. So here's the question. We've got this weird nuance over here. Can you customize that for over? They're already down that path of how to make it work. Do you see what I'm saying?
You're way below the surface level of where most demos start.
And what happened is they're then coming to the table in a different place mentally. That's the secret to your sales cycle going down. And what it also does is from a pure margins perspective, you just protected a hell of a lot of time for your salespeople. And you really created an efficient process that allows your salespeople to go find more of those people to get on calls and close those people. This particular client that I had was able to do one discovery call. At the end of the discovery call with the whole team, they would pitch a ballpark starting price. And the reason they did that is so that they can watch the eyes in the room to see if that was a hard pill to swallow or not. And they're like, okay. Then they knew that they could get that proposal had a high probability of closing. They say, we're going to send you a proposal. Let's set the next 15-minute follow-up right now. Everybody pull calendars. They all, right there, it took 5 minutes to pull calendars. You set the 15-minute follow-up to look through the proposal and answer questions.
Nice. It's a good process.
It's a very simple process. Everybody also got the proposal before the call, so it wasn't like this whole Wizard of Oz thing. No, you sent the proposal out. They had time to look at it. You told them you're going to have questions. We're going to set 15 minutes to talk through it. And in that 15 minutes, you can let us know, yes or no, if this is going to be a fit for you. Giving them permission to opt out. And the last piece of the sales process for SaaS that's really beautiful is to then say to that prospect, and you know what, even if it's a no, I'd love to use that time then to understand how I can best support you. Is it networking connections? Is there anything else I can do where we could really advocate for each other? Because we really appreciate the opportunity to build a relationship.
No matter what happens, you're adding value. I think that's huge.
That person goes, oh, that's a little different. That's the process that we did. They exited shortly after. They had a very successful high exit. That's the recipe. And it started with a brand trifecta.
That's really good. So you said we needed data to do this. What do companies do if they're, relatively new or startups and they don't have the data that they need to build that out?
Oh, I have a prospect right now I'm talking to. Can I tell you? Okay.
Of course.
So I have this beautiful prospect that actually is built an online marketplace. Okay. So they're like, Kate, it's an HR marketplace. I only have like 3 paying customers. Do I need to go do all this market research and go hire a market research firm? Okay, can I just pause for a second there? I actually told them don't do that. Let me explain why. In the process of getting to where they were able to go through a seed round, they actually did have a number of people give input and a number of users that tested and used it, even if they were free. I want you to remember that your first line of defense to get data are current customers, as well as getting data even from investors, getting data from people who helped build it. And believe it or not, I hate to say this, but you already know your competition. Like, are you going to go pay a market research firm a buttload of money to go tell you the exact same thing you already know about your competitors? When you're a small startup and you don't have much cash or much of a customer base, what I would really caution you on is don't get so in the weeds of having to have so much data that you overthink this. You have to trust your gut. You built this product for a reason. You got investment for a reason. So brand does lean into having data, but you actually have to be willing to recognize that you have to stand on some strong assumptions as well. That's the balance act. And whenever I work with technology founders, that's tough because we want the facts. We want the data and the facts.
I think that's good. One of my mentors used to tell me all the time, you can't steer a parked car. And so you get it moving and you steer as you go. I mean, we talk about that even, we're building the plane as we're flying it. So it's adjusting along the way. It's not that you have this great brand message. It never changes, that it's set in stone forever, but it can be modified over time. It evolves. It grows along with you as a company.
Absolutely.
I hope it does.
And if you take the time to build this brand trifecta and you put it into the market, right? You could go ask your customers very simple questions. Why did you buy from us? What made us different? What problem do we really solve? You can reverse engineer all these questions, by the way. 5 or 6 core questions that's going to give you the meat. All right.
That's great.
And the bottom line is this, is you go put that into the world and you go acquire the next 3 to 5 customers. Go get data from them. Just start collecting data. Start getting surveys. What's going to happen is within about 90 days of getting a new message into the market, you're going to know. And if you went and closed a bunch of deals in between now and then, from day 0 to day 90, I'm pretty sure you're on a good track then.
I think so.
Compared to where you were before. And you have to be willing to take progress in as your big thing, not perfection. Oh, I need to acquire 50 customers per month. Stop. Your brand is going to be a living, breathing thing. If your brand is improving the ability to get there, you then get to ask smarter questions of things like, maybe it's not the brand messages that's off. Maybe it's the fact that we're in the wrong rooms trying to find the wrong people. Ooh, maybe we're advertising on Facebook and our people don't even show up on Facebook. So why are we putting money there? You get to ask a whole other set of really compelling questions to then A/B test and understand, is the message really broken? Or is the where we're putting the message into the market the thing that's going to enable us to also acquire more customers?
That's really good. Well, tell me about the book.
Sure. I know we're getting wrapped up on time here. So I mentioned this to you, and this might be a good resource for those of you that are listening. I wrote a 102-page book. Okay. Less is more. So what I did is I just wrote down my consulting process and I put it into a book. It is step by step by step of what we've talked through today, even down to grammar and structure for a tagline. How do you write a value prop? How do you implement it with a full implementation checklist? So it's 100 pages of pure practical, tactical brand expertise right there for you. It's available on Amazon. The book is called Muting the Megaphone. You can also find it on my website, by the way, which is katedileo.com.
Excellent. And I will definitely go get that book today. And it sounds fantastic. I looked at the preview before and I absolutely have to get that. And I like that it's 100 pages. That's something that's very consumable. You're not somebody who thought that, I need to write another, 300 pages just to make me sound really smart.
No, come on. Keep it simple. Get to the point. I hope you enjoy it, and I appreciate, you being able to check it out. I'd love your feedback. So if you like it, you don't like it, tell me why.
Definitely. And we'll make sure to link that in the show notes and your website as well. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast today.
Thanks again, Kate, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and gifts. Wasn't that awesome? I just love the framework that opens up conversations. It's a very natural way to draw people into a conversation. That's what we all want, right? And you can learn more about Kate at katedileo.com. It's Kate, KateDileo.com. And as always, all links, highlights, resources, full show notes, including the framework that she shared, are available at saasfuel.com and on our YouTube channel as well. Well, subscribe or follow us. Everyone who subscribes this week gets a virtual trip to Hawaii. It's, almost like the real thing. Okay, it's nothing like the real thing. But, if you like hanging out with other SaaS founders who are doing amazing things, hit me up and you can join us at our next meetup in the U.S. as my guest. That part's not a joke. Seriously, send me a message and we'll get you the invite. Join us next time where our founder is Jeff Jekyll, co-founder and chief strategy officer at Client Giant. They are revolutionizing client engagement and employee engagement, which is really important these days. It's a brilliant idea helping business leaders realize and reimagine their role in the happiness of their employees and loyalty of their clients. An amazing founder there. And then next Thursday, sales legend, Craig T. Ingram. Craig T., great friend of the show and myself as well. Sales strategy, go-to-market expertise in medtech, health tech. His specialty is product launch and market expansion so that growth continues on an upward trajectory. Super good. And our 100th episode coming after that, it's going to be epic. We're doing 2 back-to-back episodes the same week, calling them both episode 100. We've got multiple guests. We have in-person interviews and a few surprises. So I will see you next time. Mahalo. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.